as I said originally. Let's see. Mammies tend to have a situation where they put out but they don't get much, at least. And I think this is a great example of that. And I want to point that out in here, so let's continue to watch.
Top down. No, I'm just playing. Hey guys, Kearney Rose speaking. I miss you guys. Like I said, I'm gonna just jump right on into it. So, I've seen some disturbing shit this morning, and it's about my girl Six the Goddess. Shout out to Six the Goddess. Shout out to Danica and the Crown Heads and everybody. But I seen some shit.
I have to say, I like Danica a lot. I can relate a lot to her on a lot of relationship issues that she talks about. Six, I don't have anything against. I just don't like the whole thing of deifying men and women and people. Because, I mean, I think it takes a weak-minded individual to deify people or think people are deities. God is so much more than any weak human. So that's all I have to put out there. But yeah, I don't have an issue with either channel specifically, and I've never gone after either channel. I would say I've kind of promoted, I guess, Danica Marie because I do like much of her content. But yeah, continue.
That just like pissed me off. So Six That Goddess did a live this morning. She was doing a reaction to the podcast that she went on last night. It's like a little YouTube. They did a live. It's like a little YouTube show or some shit like that. I never watched this shit before, and I won't be watching this shit. But what I seen took place, I really didn't like that. So the title of the conversation they were having was called "Division in the Black Community." So they had this non-FBA coon.
Okay, when you try and call people slave names like coon, and also have the mindset that white slave owners had against slaves, black people that were slaves, it shows clear self-hate. I mean, you guys try to use the term coon to signify someone is a self-hater, but the truth is you are a self-hater because you're using the term. Do you know what that word means? It means someone who is a runaway from slavery, a slave runaway. Someone who thought that they were better than black people who decided to stay in slavery and enslavement and did not think they were worthy enough of actually leaving that type of environment. Basically, a smart black person. And what you're saying is that people who are not like those people are dumb black people. You're trying to align yourself as a dumb black person. And you are saying that you see yourself as a slave and not worthy of much more than that. When you use that term, it's just the truth. I mean, if you want to disparage someone, say that they have a lot of self-hate. Say they hate black people. Say they are white worshiping. See, those would actually signify someone self-hating. When you use the term coon, it goes right back at you because coon was a term that white people use, white slave owners use against runaway black slaves who were smart enough to leave, unlike your ancestors, which weren't. And by the way, you're not FBA, you're Creole. Anyway.
In the live saying how black people in America commit the most crimes. That's what statistics shows. And from what I understand, this man goes on a lot of people's platforms acting a fool and causing chaos. So he got the right name. So you know what I would did?
not trying to cause chaos. For one, statistically, when it comes to prisons, when it comes to men, the majority of men are black men. They're like 35% of the prison population. White men are about a little less than 30%. And white men who are non Hispanic are less than 30%. And then there's Asian, and then Hispanic is a little bit overrepresented, but black Americans are the highest amount of men in prison. Now, of black women in prison, technically, actually, white women are the majority of people in women prisons. That's just how that is. Interesting how among the sexes, men are usually the ones who commit most of the crime, but among white men and white women outdo white men in their representation in prison, for whatever reason that is. Continue.
I wanted to check to see on how many black people are in prison, and I also want to check to see on how many white people are in prison. And to my surprise, it shocked me. I'm like, whoa. I might have a picture up on the statistics, because this is what statistics shows. It shows how many black people are in prison. It shows how many white people are in prison. It shows how many Asian and Native Americans are in prison as well. And I was shocked to see a lot. It ain't as much black people.
That's not true. You try to combine the Hispanic population in prison with the white male population in prison to try to stave off the fact that most of the people in prison are black men, of men in prison. I mean, it is what it is. Either way, you're 3 times represented in prison, so I mean, like, that can't be good. Nobody else does that. Even if it was 57% of white men in prison, that would still be underrepresenting because white people are over 60% of the population in America. Thing is, it's not even that high for white American men because white American men are like less than 30% of the prison population when they are non-Hispanic. And the percentage of non-Hispanic white men in general population is over 60%. So they underrepresent themselves by half of the population that they have in general population. So it is what it is. Continue though.
I thought I ain't gonna lie, it's a good amount,
Stop trying to lie.
but it's not higher than white people. When we commit.
Yes, it is. You're just trying to include Hispanics with white people so then it can look like the percentage is higher. That's why you put white, but you didn't include the whole white non-Hispanic population. That's the population that's actually white by societal standards. Hispanic people aren't white by societal standards. They might put themselves down as white. Heck, I could put myself down as white on a census board if I wanted to. I mean, anyone can put themselves down as white. That's just your personal choice. You just fill in white on your census and there you go. But does that mean that's a white person? No, that's just a delusional person who put themselves down as white. Continue.
But when I put this picture up here, I want y'all to pause it and read it. But let's get back to the conversation. So, Six the Goddess asks him this question. She says, "Where are you from?" He says, "I'm from here." Like I said, it's a lot of non-FBA people who are born in America, but their family can be from another country.
Like yourself, because you aren't FBA. To be FBA, foundational Black American, you would have to have heritage outside of the Creole culture and background. That's a different background than normal Black Americans. You're not a part of the normal Black American population at large. You are a part of the Creole culture of America, which is a different culture than Black Americans. So please don't pretend to be us either.
And asked him respectfully, where are your parents from? He did not want to answer that question. He got irritated when she asked him that question. And next thing you know, he just started yelling and hooping and hollering like a bitch. Screaming at Sister Goddess saying, well, you won't live in the hood. You don't live in the hood. And, you know, because basically just like telling this woman that you wouldn't live in the hood with those people because you know those black people in the hood do a lot of fucked up shit. You got a nice house. You got a nice car. You living in a mansion. Telling her, show where you live at. You wouldn't walk in a dark alley with two Negroes behind you. Well, shit, I wouldn't walk in a dark alley with two white people.
And this is the thing. The truth is about this situation is it's not pro-black men to be pro-black criminalized black men. Because who are they committing the crime against? Yeah, are we going to just ignore exactly who these criminalized black men are doing the crime they're committing? Who are they committing it against? The truth is they're committing it against black men. So obviously you're not pro-black men when you are trying to be in favor of the very thing that is the number one killer of black men, young black men. And especially black men who obey the law. It's not particularly criminalized black men who are sought after and who are basically people who we should, put away in prison and penalize. This doesn't affect law-abiding black men who will become victims of these type of black men if we don't do something about putting them away in prison. That's why you had a black man complaining and saying the main people committing crimes are black men, because he knows these black men are the black men who hate him and kill him, rob him, victimize him, traumatize him. And yet you are saying that this black man's life doesn't matter. Instead, what you're calling this black man is a bitch because he wants to stay safe, because he doesn't want black men who are most likely going to kill him and have shown statistically will kill him at higher amounts than any other race, any other gender of people. You're saying that he is supposed to be in favor of these people who are going to destroy him. Because the reality of the situation is this: you can't have the ability to have accessibility to black men who are law-abiding, to black men who are high class. You don't have the ability to be in their company, basically. And so the black men you have to fight for are criminalized black men, because you have no other choice in basically who else you can advocate for without getting favor from anyone. This is the type of man you have to entertain. And this is due to your low self-esteem of seeing yourself in a mindset that you are a slave, as you already implied earlier, and how I showed you specifically see black people as equivalent to slaves, including yourself. So, to me, I just kind of think the only one who's showing that they're anti-black men right now is you. You are only concerned about black men when it concerns you, what you can get out of it. And you feel you can exploit black men who are criminalized so then they can give you brownie points, basically. but you don't feel like you'll get the same accolades if you were to be in favor of actual black men who follow the law and are successful in their lives and are not trying to stand up for black men who are at large trying to kill these exact same black men. So that's what I have to say on that. Continue a little bit. I'm gonna do another portion.
Basically trying to tell her that, you know, there are a lot of fucked up black people, and why are you taking up for them? You know that they're crazy. You know that they commit the most crimes. Basically, is what you're trying to say to 6. But I give it up to 6. I gotta give it up to her. She better than me because she stayed in her femininity the whole time while this man doing all this screaming and yelling. Now remind you, it's a lie. They're not in person with each other who've been yelling and screaming. They're on their little phones and videos, and they do a little like a little conference call basically, but it's on live stream. And she was trolling him, but she was the prime example of a woman standing, you know, in her femininity. She didn't yell back at him. She didn't curse at him. She didn't do none of that. All she called him was Carlton Banks. And this man called her a single baby mama. He called her, saying, you're 37 years old, you're not a little girl, you're tall, but tall. How you know? It 6 brought this up. She said, well, how you know all this about me? You must be stalking me. You must be watching me. How you know all this about me?
And that's the thing about this. Even I know that about 6, and I don't follow 6 like that. But that's a major reason why people can imply that a person is low value. When you're taking up for people who are criminalized black men, this has got nothing to do with black men in particular. It's got to do with the class of black man. And the fact that you can only take up for a criminalized black man implies that you feel like that's all you can get. And that's what he's trying to point out with 6. See, he wouldn't have to point that out with you, probably because you're a lot less attractive than 6, obviously. And so, you know, anyone can see why you would take up for black men who are criminalized and lower class. 6, on the other hand, she's a beautiful black woman, you know. So some people would be like, why is she taking up for a low class, criminalized black man, basically? And the reason he's pointing out that she would do such a thing is most likely because she's a single mom. She's a low value woman. She's 37, as they say, hit the wall. Things of that nature, you know. So he's trying to come up with a reason why you guys are so desperate to stick up for men who are killing your own men, killing black men who are innocent, who didn't do anything wrong to anybody. You know, criminalized men who victimize their own people, you know, in their own neighborhoods. You know, continue.
But I'm gonna get to the next one. What really pissed me off, there's another guy on there. His name is Logic. He was on the live. I don't know if he's one of the main people on the show or whatever. So Logic says that, well, 6 was being disrespectful. She asked him a disrespectful question. Now, shout out to the women on there. They had to say, well, how's that a disrespectful question to ask somebody where your parents from?
To me, it sounds like a distraction. And most likely because they don't want to address the fact that they are addressing the fact that there's a lot of criminality among black men that are criminalized. But this doesn't mean the majority of black men are criminals, by the way. It's just that there's a higher rate. And they act like there's no victims among these crimes. There are dead bodies because of these crimes. There are robbed people who are so traumatized. And many of those people, most of those people are black men. So this tells you that these people don't care about black men, because if you cared about black men's lives, you would care about the black men who are victims to these crimes, who are hurt every day by these crimes. Obviously, you don't care about black men. All you care about is what use you can get out of black men and how you can try to use the guise of black male criminality to get brownie points from a criminalized black man who doesn't even value the life of other black men at the end of the day. So you can't even claim that you are in favor of Black Lives Mattering, either of you, because you support the very people who devalue black men's lives and take black men's lives at the highest rate more than any other person. So that's all I have to say here. I will continue in the next video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and comment down below. Have a great day. Bye.